Before we move further into these hidden corridors of the old craft, you must understand something essential. We are no longer walking through history. We are walking through its residue. There are truths so deeply buried that even time hesitates to disturb them. Truths that were not erased, but deliberately concealed within symbols, gestures, and fragments of silence. This path does not unfold through logic or language. It unfolds through recognition, through that unsettling sense that something once known is returning. Because the knowledge we are about to step into was never meant for open display. It survived by hiding behind the ordinary, by cloaking itself in custom, by whispering through the cracks of civilizations too noisy to hear it. What remains now is not myth, not superstition, but the skeletal framework of an ancient intelligence, an intelligence forged in darkness, refined by secrecy, and carried forward by those who understood that silence is sometimes the only form of protection. So steady your breath, anchor your mind, because once we cross this threshold, we are no longer observers. We become historic isles, and witnesses seldom return unchanged. The deeper we travel into this hidden tradition, the more we realize that the craft was never a collection of rituals. It was a way of perceiving reality itself, not a belief system, not an ideology, but a lens sharpened over centuries of silence and shadow. Those who guarded this craft did not merely survive history. They watched it unfold with an acute, almost surgical awareness. They observed the rise of institutions, the forging of doctrines, the reshaping of human thought, and they understood something the rest of the world. When a society forgets how to see the unseen, it becomes blind to its own depths. Within dimly lit rooms and remote forest clearings, the elders of the craft taught a principle that became the backbone of their survival. Reality responds to the mind that engages it. To them, the mind was not a passive mirror. It was an instrument capable of bending, reflecting, and reshaping experience. Where modern logic stops at observation, their understanding began. Every ritual was an experiment. Every chant was a recalibration. Every symbol was a map, a geometric arrangement of intention designed to guide the practitioner through psychological thresholds modern society didn't even know existed. What made this hidden craft formidable was not its secrecy, but its precision. It was a system built over centuries through trial, error, loss, rebirth, and the relentless pursuit of understanding. These practitioners had no laboratories, no libraries, no academies. Their laboratory was the self. Their library was memory. Their academy was silence. In silence, they discovered patterns of emotion. In silence, they charted the architecture of fear. In silence, they learned to breach the threshold between instinct and consciousness. And through this unwavering discipline, they developed a form of knowledge that modern intellect still struggles to decode. To understand their world, imagine standing in a circle of stones under a moon that seems far too aware of your presence. The air is cold, not hostile, but attentive. Every sound echoes with intention. Every movement resonates with weight. Here, the practitioner does not perform. They dissolve. They step out of the boundaries of ordinary thought and into a domain where meaning is fluid, dynamic, and dangerously alive. The old craft taught that the greatest illusions are not external, they are internal. Fear that disguises itself as caution, doubt that masquerades as logic, shame that transforms into silence, and desire that becomes dependency. The path was not about fighting these illusions. It was about confronting them until they unraveled. And so their rituals were not tools of magic. They were tools of dismantling. Dismantling the false architecture society builds into the human mind. But the world outside these circles changed. The more modernity marched forward, the more disconnected people became from their own internal world. The psychological clarity once common among practitioners became foreign, even feared. To most, silence became uncomfortable. Intuition became irrational. Symbols became meaningless. Nature became resource, and the unseen became irrelevant. This disconnection created a vacuum the craft was never meant to fill, but one it ultimately revealed. Because when human beings lose their relationship with meaning, they lose more than tradition. They lose orientation. All previous disorientation. A person becomes fragile, manipulable, hollow. The elders of the craft knew this long before psychology gave names to these conditions. They understood that any society that divorces itself from symbol, ritual, and inner exploration becomes spiritually malnourished. The old craft knew this long before psychology gave names to these conditions. They understood that any society that divorces itself from symbol, ritual, and inner exploration becomes spiritually malnourished. Without that, they would be hollow, bore, rebellious. They would be torn apart because fear, and they would be fragile. It only needed continuity. So, while the modern world forgot, the craft remembered. It remembered the feel of the earth beneath feet, the weight of intention behind action, the energy that moves through silence, the way fear transforms when faced instead of avoided. It remembered everything humanity tried to abandon. In the hidden enclaves where the old craft persisted, a new evolution began. Practitioners realized they did not need full rituals to retain power. They needed the philosophy behind them. A simple gesture could replace an entire ceremony. A single symbol could contain a century of knowledge. A moment of controlled breath could shift internal equilibrium. The craft began compressing itself, distilling its vast heritage into smaller, more potent forms. This condensation of knowledge became the reason the craft survived long after entire religious systems collapsed. Its power was not in the ritual. Its power was in the understanding. Those who carried this understanding became difficult to erase. And now, as the present world stands on the edge of spiritual confusion and existential fatigue, the echoes of this ancient craft grow louder. People sense something is missing, something their ancestors had, something buried in silence, something their minds recognize even if their memories do not. Modern seekers talk about energy, intuition, symbolism, shadow work, inner healing, alignment, not realizing they are brushing against the same concepts practitioners once protected in darkness. The old craft is not returning. It never left. It simply learned to change form until the world became capable of seeing it again. We stand now in a liminal space between what was forgotten and what is re-emerging, between the intellect that dominates modern life and the instinct that once guided humanity through every darkness. And as we peer into this threshold, one truth becomes unavoidable. The craft's greatest power was never supernatural. Its greatest power was understanding. Understanding the self, understanding the world, and understanding the unseen forces that move between both. And that understanding still waits for those brave enough to confront it.